So let's talk about Parshas Lech Lecha. Ever since I saw this Varna Parshas Lech Lecha last year, what I'm about to start with, I feel it's a mitzvah lefarsim. It's not the Chassam Sefer in front of you. It's a different part of the Chassam Sefer. The reason why this is, in my mind, something to tell people is because a vart, something on the parsha which you could actually remember, is nice. You know, usually you hear something, it's nice, it's not nice. Like you want to tell someone, you're like, let me find it on my phone. Okay, yeah, okay. So this, I think, every single person in this room is going to remember. That's a bold challenge, and I'll challenge you. I think we all have the brain capacity for this one. The word, let's start with the question. Avram Avinu. We're finally here, Baruch Hashem, we made it to Lecha, Avram Avinu. Avram was called Ha-Ivri, the Yid. The Yid. We won't play trivia and find out who were the people in history that were called the Yid HaKadosh, who got that famous appellation. But Avram Ha-Ivri. Now, why was he called Ha-Ivri? We all know the famous Medrash, because the whole world was on one side and he's on the other side.
He doesn't actually mean Yid.
Good. That's where it comes from, Ivri. Perfect. Very good. So now the question is, so why would Avram Avinu called Ha-Ivri? Because the whole world's on the other side. Is because he sat there and he saw all the idols and he destroyed them. And the whole world is busy worshiping who knows what, and he finds God. So he is the quintessential person who does not get affected by anyone else. He could sit there in that room with all the atheists and all the missionaries and he doesn't care. Proof is he did it. He took the idols. And we all know the kids. Our kids tell the stories. They like how every school makes it, some are the Getchkalach. Great having a little kid say Getchkalach. That's amazing. What's that? It's a Getchkalach. Okay, the Getchkalach. The idols in English. The Avodah Zarah. And, everyone has their nusach and what the story was. What were the idols fighting about? Okay, everyone knows the story, right? That much we remember from our youth. Okay, so they're fighting. So the question is, Lech Lecha, Avram Avinu is sent out. Me'artzecha, me'ladzecha, me'beis avicha. Go away. Why was Avram Avinu, the one person who's not affected by his surroundings, told to leave your surroundings? Leave everything behind. Avram Avinu? I can understand anyone else in the world, but Avram Avinu, the one person who is not affected by surroundings, who looks at the idols in the face and says, they got into a fight and destroys them. And he's thrown into the fiery furnace and all the good things. Why was he the one that was told to leave his surroundings? Why was he the one told, and you're going to go to the land that I'm going to show you, which maybe we'll talk about the fact that the pasuk doesn't describe it, etc. So says Rabbeinu Bechaye, Chassam Sefer quotes it, you don't have it in front of you. The word Lech Lecha, to go, that's what we know. Take the word Lech Lecha, put it together. Now what do you got? Lichloch. What's lichloch? Schmutz, filth, disgusting, garbage. Says Rabbeinu Bechaye, Lech Lecha is Lashon Lichloch. Why? Because what happens if you are clean and you walk through garbage? You become dirty. But I don't want to get dirty. I don't care, you get dirty. Says Rabbeinu Bechaye, your surroundings is a physical reality that they affect you. Don't say, I'm Avram Avinu, I'm not going to be affected by anyone in the world. Says Rabbeinu Bechaye, your surroundings affect you. And this is a very important lesson because we always knew this. But if we see how far it goes, we spoke about last week a little bit, we mentioned about Noach, and we mentioned how the world gets contaminated by himself, by the people, the San Francisco birds and all the good things, how, the world itself is contaminated. Says Rabbeinu Bechaye, Lech Loch. That's the vart. That's what you're going to remember. What's the word? Lech Lecha, Lech Loch. Garbage. So now, when we're in a bad atmosphere, a bad situation, we're hanging out with someone who's being whatever, just realize, wherever you are, whatever you see, whatever you do, affects you. Garbage. You're wearing a clean suit, and you just rolled in the mud. Now, it's true, you could clean yourself, and it's true that this, Torah always protects a person, and of course, if someone is going out to do kiruv, we're not getting involved in that. Just one simple line is to realize the effects of our surroundings. The Chazon Ish famously wouldn't look at certain people because he said looking at them, and I can't say I understand what this means, affects your neshama. Looking at them. he wouldn't look at Rishayim. Rav Elya Rapian explains that somehow, because how do you see? We think we see with our eyes. He says, no, you see with your neshama. Whatever that means. So he says, when the sight goes into your eyes and it's translated by your brain, that's really going through your neshama. So when the Chazon Ish, when you would look at a Rasha, somehow that makes an imprint on you. So, that's a very high level. But lesson number 1 of the parsha is before we even, before we get out of the box.
He wasn't going somewhere better.
Whom?
Oh,
shoot! That's the next. Where was he going? Why was he going? What was he doing? That's what we're going to get to. That's the Chasam Sefer that we're going to read for in a moment. But number 1 is he was leaving. Get out of here. Why? Because you have to leave your surroundings. But Avram Avinu. No, your surroundings affect you. Whatever you see, do, hear, what you want to do, you don't want to do, Lech Lecha. That's part number 1. I think this is something that everyone will remember. It's a nice thing to tell people, and it just brings out, if we were to hear that, like the Chazon Ish, Chaim Kanievsky, Ramosha Feinstein, he's affected. Certainly, feeble little us is affected. That is idea number 1. Now let's take this let's read a Chasam Sefer together. We all know that the Lech Lecha is a little bit interesting because it doesn't say where he's going. It doesn't say where he's going. Avram Avinu just go. Where should he go? Hashem didn't tell him. Where are you going to go? So on Shabbos we'll probably talk a little bit about this unique idea of Avram Avinu, that he's going without knowing where to go. Why is he going? And what does that mean to go? But let's for now, I would like to learn a little piece of Chasam Sefer together. Yesh lefarish lech la'atzmecha. You have the Hebrew, you have the English if you want, or you could do none and just listen, or whatever you like. Listen, it's a free world. Everyone has choices over here. Yesh lefarish lech la'atzmecha, because the word lech lecha is funny. If anyone meets an Israeli, you could ask my older daughter. She still has a little bit of Hebrew left, and you ask her, if you're going somewhere, you're lech, you go. You don't lech lecha. What's Lech Lecha? The words don't make any sense. Even in our primitive Hebrew, we know it makes no sense. What are you doing? It says the Chasam Sefer, Yesh lefarish lech la'atzmecha. You have to explain, what does it mean that you're going lecha, to yourself? What does that mean? Listen to these words of the Chasam Sefer. They're absolutely beautiful, almost poetry. That's why I made it centered in the page. It's like poetry. Ki adam toichai toiv chelek elikai mimal. What's inside each and every one of us? Our neshama. Says the Chasam Sefer, inside of each and every Jew is a piece of God from above. A little piece of Hashem, a little godliness came straight from underneath the Kisei HaKavod, underneath the heavenly throne, came down a little spark, that little neshama that's inside of you. V'klipoisav artziois gufay, and the physical world, hamakifin, that surround and subsume you, v'sayvin nafshay hayafeh. So you have this beautiful soul, we have this diamond, that what happens? The world around us sucks it in. Hima hamoinim mimenu kol teif. So you think you have this beautiful piece of neshama inside of you. We have this wonderful thing that God gave us, a piece of His Kisei HaKavod. And then what happens? It comes down to this world, and all of a sudden the world around us starts suffocating that neshama. And anyone who's learning Mesilas Yesharim, actually, we just had this idea as well. How you want to do something good, and all of a sudden you're being pulled away from the world, from the non-ending roller coaster of this world, pulling you to do non-good things. And I don't want to do that. That's the world that just sucks you down like that quicksand. But it says the Chasam Sefer, and this is the line I want to hone in on. Ulpa'amim, and at times, Zoicha, a person has the schos, he merits, lahagbir nafshoy al gevyosim misar atzmai. You overcome. You actually follow the alarm one morning. It's okay, it's driving out. You follow the alarm one morning, and you get out of bed. You beat yourself. You finally win, says the Chasam Sefer. You win. What happens? So the Chasam Sefer now is teaching us a startling idea. That what happens is, again, we have this neshama that's pure, and then we have around us the whole physical parts of the world that are slowly pulling us down. You want to do something good, you want to have kavana, you want to learn, you want to do a chesed. What happens is the world around you prevents you from doing all of that. But then one day what happens is, you win. How do you win? You actually get up and learn. You actually go and do the chesed. You finally see something nice. You're winning. You're winning the battle. But then, what happens? You fall. You get sucked back down. Why did that happen? Where did that come from? I was doing good. I was being a good person. I was on top of the world. Why all of a sudden, out of nowhere, blindsided, If you think about it, it's a little bit of a funny thing if you think about it. Why often do we fall when we're not ready for it? What made me fall? I came to davening. I woke up on time. I'm ready to have kavana, and boom. Well, where did that come from? I wanted to do something nice. I came home and I was talking nicely to my wife, and all of a sudden, boom. Where does that come from? Chassam Sofer explains to us where it comes from. You know where it comes from? B'nei beisoi ve'eretz moiladatoi v'anhagoiseihem moinoi kol tov mimenu. Your past. Everything that you've done in your life, your upbringing, your family, your surroundings, the places you've been, the things you've seen, the actions that you've done, all of that, which we just said a moment ago, is that which is surrounding your neshama. So when you're doing something good, all of a sudden it starts squeezing again. And all of a sudden you're ready to do something good, but then your past history starts pulling you back down. Your b'nei beisoi, your eretz moladatoy, and everything around you. And he says, I was married to this in another place, and he says, and this is the reason, to where? Where are we going? Lech Lecha, to yourself. Why can't you find that neshama inside of you? Why do we have such a difficult time doing good things? Why, even when we finally succeeded, and we finally showed up, and we finally are doing something good, why all of a sudden do we fall? Why do we have such a difficult time to reach El Atzmai, to find ourselves? We're all so good inside, so why do we have such a difficult time getting there? We spoke about this before. In Elul, we mentioned that who is the real you? We mentioned that person by Ne'ilah, that perfectly pure, pristine, Hashemu Elokim, that last Shema Yisrael, that's really who you are. Not the opposite. We sometimes make a mistake and we think we are the bummy, we'll call it, the loathsome human beings that we are, and on Yom Kippur, for a few moments, we can find the spark. No, it's the exact opposite. That's who we really are. We're really that perfect, pristine soul, yelling Hashemu Elokim, sitting there Shema Yisrael. We finished, we heard the shofar, and we still want to dance a little bit, and we still want to connect a little bit, and we're floating. That's who we really are.
Shouldn't it be easier to get to your natural state?
Oh, exactly. It should be very easy, because that's who you are. But he's explaining, we're trying to go Lech Lecha, we're trying to go deep with it and pull that out. But you know what happens? We have to leave Lech Lecha, me'artzecha, me'latecha, me'beis avicha, everything in your own life. To say it in a not such nice way, we are our worst enemies. Because everything that we have done, we have seen, we have been to, our upbringing, even if we can have the most wonderful upbringing, but the bottom line is, it's just pulling you back there. And that's the reason why the Chassam Sofer is explaining to us that that's why to get to La'al Atzmai, the Chilek Elikayim Imal, Asher Bekirbo, to reach that neshama that's inside of you, Asher Zehu Ha'adam Be'emes, he says it right there. That's you. What's the real you? Where are we going, Lech Lecha? What are we going to find? The Chilek Elikayim Imal, because that is the Adam Be'emes. Who are you? What do you define yourself as? Not the person that showed up late to davening, not the person that couldn't talk nicely, not the one that couldn't give tzedakah, not the one that fell into this temptation and this issue and this problem. That's not you. You, the Adam Be'emes, is the Chilek Elokai Mimah. Is that neshama inside you. The problem is that everything around us, which he's explaining to us, is our entire life. Everything we've been to, everything we've done, is that which is holding us back. So what does Hashem say to us? Go to yourself. Where are we going? We're finding that inside, that is us. That Adam Be'emes, we're going to dig deep down. Inside yourself. And then he finishes. Because that is what holds you back. And you shall leave them, and where do we go? El Eretz Asher Erka, we go, El Eretz Canaan, we go to the promised land. So what's incredible about this Vart of the Chassam Sofer is I think it gives us a little bit of a new perspective of where we're driving to. Sometimes we feel, or all too often we feel, is that we have to change ourselves entirely. Who am I? I am the issued person, now I have to change myself. I'm a person who can't get up for davening. Now I have to break myself to re-get up for davening. I'm a person that can't talk nicely, and now I have to change myself. It's true you have to change yourself, but what you're doing is, as we spoke about, it's similar to the word of tshuva, it's returning. It's finding that chilek elekai mimal, it's going letoich pnimi yoisecha, it's going inside of you. But what's more incredible is when we realize that it's ourself holding ourselves back, we sort of know where to target. I think I mentioned to some of the chavri here, how Rabbi Yisrael Salanter would watch children play. Little kids. He'd watch little kids play. And someone one time remarked to him and said, Rabbi Yisrael, what are you doing? Why are you watching a 2-year-old play? And Rabbi Yisrael said, I'm looking at my bad midas. What? The kid's just playing. He said, Rabbi Yisrael, no, because your child absorbs everything from the parents. And he was able to do it with little kids. And he was able to see his own shortcomings in that child. And then he could work in himself. So when we realize that our own issues are ourselves, it's our artzacha, meiladzacha, mebeis avicha, it's a place that we came from, it's the things that we grew up with. Now we can change finally. So I don't really need to be that person. It's just because for whatever reason, for the last 10, 20, 30 years of my life, from the time I was whatever, I went to that type of shul, I davened like that, I talked over there, I did like this, I looked at this. I don't need to do that. That's just my artzacha, that's my maladzacha, that's my beis avicha, that's whatever I was brought up with. For good or for bad, all of a sudden this conversation quickly turns into finding fault. No, it's not me, it's my parents' fault and it's the yeshiva's fault. Look, that's not the point. Once we realize that whatever our own issues come from our own history, now we have a way to find the Lech Lecha. We have a way to go back home. Go back home where? Not back to your house. No, that's the most dangerous place. Go back to find the chilek elekami mal by ridding ourselves of our past. It's a little bit of a difficult thing to understand because sometimes we think, no, the opposite. We have to rid ourselves of our past and we have to we just have to go. And maybe this is one of the reasons, like we'll talk about, that the parsha doesn't tell us where he's going to. This is a point that has to be elaborated upon just to give us a little bit of a tidbit. Because the point is not that you're going somewhere. The point is that you're leaving. You're leaving. And where are you going to? You're going back to yourself. So there's no where you're going. Where are you going? You know where you're going. It's there. It's inside of you. You have that goodness in you. We just have to bring it back to the front. And in Mirz Hashem, hopefully in the schos of learning about the midas of the avos heinin and markava, as we'll talk about, the avos, sometimes you wonder, why does the Torah teach us all these interesting things about the avos? What does that have to do with us? Obviously it has a lot to do with us. Obviously that the reason why we learn about the avos is because we could inculcate their values into our own lives, and more than that, we could learn from what they did to what we could do. Some of the Sfarim write that every Yid has 10 nisyonis in his life, just like Avraham Avinu. Whatever that means, difficult. But regardless, the point that we're bringing out here tonight is a twofold lesson. Is that number one is, what are we going to remember about Lech Lecha? Lech Lech, garbage. Garbage makes you smelly, garbage makes you dirty. Regardless if you're trying to get dirty, regardless if you're the most spiritually holy person and you had to be in that place for whatever its reason. It was maybe a business meeting, it was a family event and you had to be there. Fine, so go. But just realize that you're walking through a cesspool and you're going to get dirty. So what does that change? So now I'm going to get dirty. What did I just help you? Because if you know you're going to get dirty, you could have your defenses. You can know, okay, I need to do this. I have to make sure to be with these people. And I have to make prior arrangements. Maybe I have to be at the business meeting, but I'll make sure to do this and that. I have to go to the simcha, but I'll make sure to have this and that there. There's always ways to make things better.
There's all zeros.
Yeah. This is all Mesilas Yesharim. Very good. Zeros is looking both past and future. But just realize it's Lech Lech. And from the smallest of things to the largest of things, sometimes say, no, I'm past that. That Aveira, that was in my youth, and it doesn't bother me anymore. I could go to that place, I could see that thing, I could hang out with those people. It's not me anymore. Baruch Hashem, it's not you. We passed, as Rav Dessler famously says in Nekudas Abachira, we raised the bar, and it's true. It's true, 100%. But still going into the garbage makes you dirty. Sometimes you have to go there. You want to go back, and you're going to help them. It's great. And sometimes you have to go for other reasons. No problem. But just realize, if Avraham Avinu, Avraham Ivri, the one that he could destroy the whole world, even he had to be careful. We have to realize how incredibly powerful our environment and what we look at and what we see and what we hear, etc. And number two, what the Chassam Sofer is teaching us is that where are we going? Lesson number 1, and again, we're going to talk more about this, but where are we going? La'atzmecha, we're going inside. It's in us. Every single person went through that Yom Kippur, and we all were at that moment. That's where we're going. If we want to have a vision of who's the me, who's the I that I'm trying to find, it's that last Hashem Elokim. It's that Shema Yisrael, that Baruch Sheim, that perfect, pristine, holy person, that's you. Wait, but does that mean I can't work and I can't? No, of course you could. Because we're on this world. God put us on this world and we have to deal with this world. And of course, you have to do whatever you need to do. But realize who you really are. And then you can be Lech Lecha, go back inside. And you realize you know your battles now. What are my battles? Sometimes it's a very comforting thing to know your battles. You know what my battles are. I know it's my own history. I know it's because I was brought up that way, so that's going to bother me. And because I've been doing this for 20 years, and sometimes, you meet a person, and you're like, you're still doing the same, you can't say this to him, obviously, but like, you won't see someone in 20 years, 10 years, and he'll be doing the same childish thing that he did 20 years ago, and you look at him and you're like, 20 years ago that was cool, yes, because we were 12 or 17, but it's just not cool anymore. We time to grow up, and we feel better ourselves. So what's the answer? The answer is, no, it's what happens. It's the world sucks you in. But now that we know that's what's going to be sucking us in, now that we know that our own challenges, our own issues, now we could hopefully try to find that Lech Lecha, try to find that Chelek Elikam Mimal that's there, and slowly, and what the most incredible thing is that godliness, that fire, all it needs is a crack. Because that's the light, is that once it's a crack, it starts shining through. And once it starts shining through, it will slowly on its own grow and push away more and more and more. And hopefully we'll eventually get Ela Eretz Asher Eka Shkoyach Rabbi Yisai.